Well, I've got an interesting one for you today. Normally we react to football, or soccer for the American viewers. Normally we react to football, highlights, tactics, the game itself. In today's video, I'm checking out a video from a doctor. Doctor reacts to rough. Let me trigger my European audience to rough soccer injuries. He's a licensed medical professional here. Video's got 7 million views. So we're gonna learn about some of these rough injuries. It's an interesting video. I've never done something like this before. It's a reaction within a reaction. Let's do it.
How about we diagnose some soccer injuries, or football, depending on where you're from. Let's get started. By the way, growing up...
By the way, it's football no matter where you're from, because soccer is an abbreviation of association footballer. So it's football no matter where you're from. But
as a soccer fan, because I came from Russia, and that was my first sport, I was captain of my high school soccer team.
Nice.
Subtle flex. I actually loved the French national team. Thierry Henry, Zinedine Zidane. These were people that I really looked up to growing up.
Patrick Battiston found himself through on goal.
Oh, did he just lay him out? He was playing the wrong kind of football.
Let's have another look at this.
Oh,
this is the one I just reacted to, right? Is this not the this dude was in a coma for this one. This is the West Germany versus who was it? France, right? Yeah, it was West Germany versus France, and I remember, yeah. So I just learned about this. The West German goalkeeper put this dude into a coma, and he like broke some ribs. He was, for like 6 months later, he was still recovering from his injuries. Dude didn't even get a yellow card or a red card, and they played the rest of the game.
Patrick Battiston found himself through on goal.
Oh,
Yeah.
did he just lay him out? He was playing the wrong kind of football.
Let's have another look at this.
It's probably the dirtiest play I've seen, and the fact it infuriates me, the fact that he didn't get any kind of punishment for this.
Oh, his hip bone hit him directly in the temple. He lost 2 teeth, broke 3 ribs, and sustained lifelong damage to his vertebrae. When you're traveling at that rate of speed and you bump into something as hard as a femur, remember the femur is one of the strongest bones in the human body. It has the tensile strength of steel, stronger than concrete. Like, this thing is tough. I'm not saying test it, but I'm saying it's tough. Oh, see, that's a really unfortunate injury, because getting a patella, the kneecap, directly into the vertebrae of your spine can be so painful. Remember, the vertebrae are bones that stack on top of one another that protect your spinal cord. But then from your spinal cord are spinal nerves that then go out and become your peripheral nerves. So if you get a...
I have a weird thing to say about that, because I totally feel that. There's probably something wrong with me. Maybe if Dr. Mike watches this video, he can help me out. But I know that those things are all somehow connected, because I will sneeze. And when I sneeze, I will feel pain shoot all the way down to my fingertips and all the way down to my toes. So it's like, I know there's something wrong with vertebrae there. So maybe he could help me out with that. Those nerves are all connected, and it's super weird. Because, like, the pain is in one spot, but you feel it like the actual injury is in one spot, you feel it in another spot.
really hard knock onto your vertebrae. Obviously, you could risk fracturing it. That's incredibly painful. But you could also damage those nerves. And when you damage nerves, that's not like symptoms that go away in a few minutes. They're lingering, they're numbing, they're tingling. They cause what's known as paresthesias, which are abnormal sensations in your hands and your legs. So this type of injury is very, very devastating. The official diagnosis was a lumbar vertebrae fracture. Shortly after he took the hit, he said in an interview he could be in a wheelchair, had the knee come a little to the left. I've had patients with compression fractures that have just absolutely debilitating pain. Pretty much, we end up having to resort to opioids because it's that bad. There are unique situations with compression fractures where we actually can use some nasal sprays known as calcitonin, which can help with pain. Kind of unusual because that's not typically a pain.
Not a fan of resorting to opioids. Maybe in severe cases.
In relieving spray, but the mechanism behind that is quite interesting. Oh, Cristiano Ronaldo. Oh,
Cristiano.
God. That was a heavy hit. He's grabbing the knee. Now, a lot of times when you're an athletic trainer or a sports medicine doc, when you're on the field or right off the field and you try and do a knee exam, if there's a tear, there's so much global swelling, especially if you tear like the ACL, because essentially when you tear a ligament, there's bleeding that happens there.
Dang.
And that's where a lot of the swelling comes from, and the inflammatory cells. That it's very hard to do a special test and hope to get an accurate result because everything hurts. Everything seems like it's a positive result. You really got to wait for the inflammation to come down and get some imaging. Ronaldo was involved in a collision in the 9th minute, and he suffered a grade 1 ACL ligament sprain in his left knee. Xavi Alonso.
It's actually crazy how, I guess an ACL sprain is different from tearing your ACL. It's crazy how, like, sports medicine has come so far that, like, that used to be if you tore your ACL, your career was over. Like, there's no coming back from an ACL tear or even like an Achilles injury. The fact that sports medicine has come to the point where it is, where, like, I remember when Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles and people were like, oh, he'll never play again. And he came back and he was still super effective. Now his game very different after the Achilles tear. He wasn't as high flying, dunking the basketball all the time. He played a lot more on the ground, a lot more improved his shooting, passing. He wasn't as springy as he once was. But still, the fact that you're able to come back from an injury like that and still play professional sports is crazy. The advancements that we've made in sports medicine.
Oh, what happened there? Oh, this is Spain, Holland. Cleats up, meaning the spikes of the cleat up. Now, when we play in high school, we usually use something known as FG cleats, which are firm ground cleats, so they're like plasticky.
Boots.
But then in
Boots
professional soccer, they usually use SG cleats, which are called soft ground cleats, and these are metal, sharp cleats.
Dang.
So imagine, oh my God, we've seen even what happened in American football when someone gets hit directly into the chest, and we don't know that's...
Oh yeah, I was talking about this in my last video. Damar Hamlin, this player number 3 right here, he basically, had cardiac arrest on the field. Basically died. Would have died had they not done emergency CPR right on the field. I was talking about this in my last video, so he's sorry to interrupt him. He was telling this.
Even what happened in American football when someone gets hit directly into the chest, and we don't know that's exactly what happened with the Buffalo Bills, but we know in baseball, for example, if the baseball hits you in the right time of your electrical conductivity of your heart, it could stop the heart. The same thing could have easily happened here.
Tonight, one of the world's leading soccer stars collapsing at the Euro 2020 tournament.
Play's going to be...
Yeah, he fell on his own without anyone hitting him.
Eriksen?
His heart...
Was this Eriksen? Somebody mentioned in one of my live streams that Eriksen... I was watching the Euros, and they said that he had a horrible injury. Wow, so this was the previous Euro 2020.
Heart just suddenly stopped.
His teammates forming a protective circle around the midfielder.
And then they started chest compressions, chest compressions, chest compressions. Because when someone is pulseless, that's what you do until help arrives.
Eriksen is now awake and...
Do you think about the how do you even continue playing? Like, so when that happened to Damar Hamlin, to go back to the American football injury that we just talked about, when they started doing chest compressions on him on the field, they showed footage of the players, and players on both sides of both teams in tears, because it's very alarming. Like the reality of the fact that this is just a game comes to mind immediately when you see this guy. Oh, he could die. Like, if they don't do chest compressions right now, he's going to die on this field. It kind of like, it shakes you up. I don't even know how you go back to playing at all. In fact, in that game, they didn't go back to playing. They suspended the game. And so I just like, how do you even get your bearings again? That's such an emotional injury and takes an emotional toll on your team.
Stabilized in the hospital, and he'll be staying there for further examination.
They likely got ROSC, which is return of spontaneous circulation. This can happen from just doing chest compressions. It can happen from giving medications. If he had a shockable rhythm, which is a type of heart rhythm that would respond to one of those defibrillators, you can shock the patient and actually shock them back into the correct rhythm, establishing a pulse. So unclear what happened with him, but the fact that they acted quickly, did the chest compressions right away, that bought them time to do medical interventions. That's what the purpose of CPR is.
An implanted cardioverter defibrillator was soon fitted as a countermeasure for any rhythmic disturbances. But the device fell outside of Serie A's medical regulations, and by October, Eriksson found himself suspended from action for Inter Milan.
Wow. So the implantable defibrillator that they're talking about is one that you basically put underneath the skin and you put some wires directly into the chambers of the heart. If the monitor detects an abnormal heart rhythm that is shockable, meaning just like the defibrillator that we keep on the outside, that we keep at Little League games, it will actually act and shock right in that moment. Now, I'm not sure what are the medical, legal regulations that prevented him from playing at Inter Milan, but it could be as simple as their insurance did not cover a person playing on their team with this significant of a risk. It's really more so about the risk that he's facing rather than his ability.
Yeah. It's crazy that he came back and like it's just that's a wild injury.
Oh, did he pop his Achilles? To me, this looks like an Achilles injury. Yep, he's grabbing at the Achilles. And for those who don't know, the Achilles tendon is the one that attaches the calf muscle to the back of your foot, the heel, the calcaneal bone. The gastroc muscle is so strong that it actually needs to be able to propel your full body weight up at any given moment. So it's very explosive. The Achilles tendon is very strong, but if it's ever injured due to tendonitis or some kind of other injury, it can snap. And one of the tests we do in the medical office is called the Thompson test, where we actually have the patient lay face down, squeeze their calf, and actually see their foot move forward. Now, if that action's not happening with the foot, we know that there's probably a disconnect with the Achilles tendon. We can do a musculoskeletal ultrasound to confirm this. And the reason why we're seeing Beckham stumble here is because he's not able to plantar flex his foot because of the lack of connection to his calf muscle. A lot of times from the Achilles tendon being so strong and constantly pulling on that calcaneal bone in the back, it can actually create a deformity in the bone known as a Haglund deformity. And it creates like this bump on the back of your foot, so much so that these days some soccer players are actually cutting out a square of their soccer boot to allow room for that little bony deformity.
Zidane jogs past Materazzi.
Cool.
Words are exchanged.
Did this guy get injured from the headbutt? This is the headbutt from 2006. I remember this. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people would consider Zidane one of the greatest players that ever played, but like this was a moment that is like a blemish on his career. But I actually don't know that I view it so much as a blemish because apparently what was said to him was pretty far out. But I don't know.
And then
Oh, it's incredible how strong Zidane is. That from a shot like that, he made the other player go parallel to the ground. You got to be strong to do that. And you could break a sternum. You know what's interesting is I don't think by rules the referee's allowed to look at replay at that moment. So the referee didn't see that happen, but then they kept replaying it in the stadium, and I think that's what led the referee to actually issue the red card. And it actually sucked because Zidane is one of France's best penalty kickers, and then they ended up needing to go to penalties.
Dang.
And Trezeguet, I believe, missed the penalty. Had Zidane been there, it might have been a different story.
Zidane paid the price.
Yeah, that was Trezeguet missing the penalty kick. Oh yeah, this is the biter. It's incredible how many times he's been caught on camera biting people. Like, there's cameras everywhere. My guy, how do you know you're not gonna get caught? And by the way, getting bitten by a human is probably worse than getting bitten by a dog, unless the dog is like rabid. The human mouth has so many different types of bacteria that you need broad antibiotic coverage for it.
Dare I say it, that he's had a little bite at Chiellini. Surely not.
A little bite. And you know what's funny? This isn't the only time he's done this. He's done this like 3 times. What a weirdo. Yeah. There was like memes of him looking like a rat. Because he's constantly biting people. Oh my God. That's so dangerous. Oh my. But I mean, that's not Cristiano's.
Look at it. Oh, it's horrible to look at. Oh. Ah. Whew.
Fault, but oh my god, the fact that he landed like that. You know what's a common injury
Well, I
in
can't-
soccer,
it's hard to
which
look at.
could have been
Jeez.
here, is a clavicle fracture. Falling on a shoulder on an outstretched arm is kind of common. And you know that to prevent injury, FIFA
showing
actually
it.
released a program called the FIFA 11 Plus, which literally dictates the warm-up you should do in order to reduce injuries by as much as like 50%. I think that's what the program claimed. They did the research showing that by doing this program, you decrease like ACL injuries and all these other ones. It's pretty incredible that now all the teams started doing that.
In the round of 16 of the Champions League, Leo impressed everyone against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. The dream shattered. In the 22nd minute, Messi ran after a loose ball and suddenly stopped in his tracks. He collapsed on the floor.
Whoa.
You could see the pain in his face,
I'm not
the
familiar with
tears
this
in
one.
his eyes. He had torn his right leg hamstring.
Oh, that's one of the most painful injuries. Oh my God, especially if it pulls off completely and tears. Oh my God. A hamstring injury is so hard to recover from. Wide receivers in the NFL, soccer players, anytime you have to sprint, especially on a fatigued hamstring, oof.
The nasty incident involving Firmino took place during a Premier League game when Liverpool played against Spurs at Wembley Stadium.
Oh!
With the Belgian accidentally poking Firmino's eye with his finger. Initially, things looked really bad, but following a quick medical intervention, any severe complications were prevented.
Oh, that's very lucky. You can get into a lot of trouble. I mean, even minor things like a corneal abrasion require antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, especially if you wear contacts that can predispose you to all sorts of issues. So don't get poked in the eye, folks. Running around the streets
right.
of New York City.
I'll try not to get poked in the eye. Thanks, Dr. Mike. All right. Well, that was an interesting, different kind of video. I hope you found some value from it. If you did, smash like on the video. Now here, I advertise my Patreon quite often, and please sign up. But if you don't feel like donating to the Patreon, one way that you can donate to the channel is by smashing like, because the more likes these videos get, the more views these videos get. That really does help. So I would really, really, really appreciate it if you'd smash like on this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.